It's your fault. I threw my non-swimmer kid in a 26-feet pool when no one was looking. I used to be a swimming teacher, got the job very young by accident because I've always been the sport type. Next to my house, there is a very famous Olympic pool in which they teach swimming and train Olympic swimmers from a very young age. So I went there with no expectations at all, and the next thing I knew, I was working at 15. Needless to say, I was the youngest there, and if it wasn't for the shirt that literally said that I was a trainer, no one would have ever noticed me there. My job there was to take care of and teach babies how to swim. From age 3 to 5, about 20 kids per class, from Thursday to Friday, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So the kids and the parents knew who I was when the class was over, and the rules about the pool, which included 2 very important things that I reminded the kids every single day. Do not go near the pool if your teacher isn't around. Do not go into the pool if you don't have a floppy. I don't really know what they're called. We just called it that way for years for some reason. But it was those pool noodles that were old enough to be bend, and we tied them around the children's chest, so it basically worked as a lifesaver. Also, you need to know that we have 3 pools, each one deeper than the others. My class took place in the medium deep one, and the kids weren't allowed in other pool. That wasn't the one where they had class. The parents also knew this. The story. As a baby's teacher, or actually any kid below 12 years old teacher, we weren't allowed to leave the kids alone or send them away if their parents weren't there. This resulted in us waiting an extra 15 to 20 minutes for parents after our shift was done, which wasn't really that bad. And when we had to wait more than that, the parents had already called, and we just changed our clothes, the kids' clothes, and waited with the kid outside. In this story, this was not the case. I still had a 4-year-old boy under my care. It was 40 minutes past my shift. We were both wet, cold, and tired because we couldn't sit anywhere. I ended up wrapping the boy in a towel another parent gave me because the kid was trembling so much, and I actually held the boy in my arms when he couldn't bear it anymore. I swear that kid was about to faint from the cold, and I was already mentally preparing my first aid skills and a no-shame barrier to run to the nearest hospital in my swimsuit, 50 minutes, an hour. It was getting darker, and the cold air began to strike us. Finally, the mother appears, doesn't even look at her child, doesn't even look at me, says let's go, and starts to walk away as I'm holding his barely alive son in my arms, not even looking back to see if he's following. I had to take the other towel away since it wasn't his, and I clearly didn't trust his mother. I planned to return it myself the next day. Put the kid down, said goodbye, watch him walk a few steps and turn around to rush to the lockers, because now I was freezing cold. I was furious, but couldn't do or say anything. I guess the mother had told my bosses that maybe she had an emergency of some sort and was still sorting it through the phone. I got to the locker, fully changed into clothes that weren't pool-like. Went from swimsuit and Crocs to jeans, hoodie, socks, and Converse. Chilled in the locker room for another 20 minutes browsing WhatsApp groups, packed my stuff in my backpack, and walked outside, closing behind me since I was obviously the last one. At this point, it was around 7:20 p.m. There was barely sunlight, and it was time for Olympic swimmers to train, and they really don't care for anything that's happening around them. So I just start walking my way out of the pool area, ignoring almost everything around me. For clarification, the pool area is for swimmers and teachers, trainers only, no parents, nor unsupervised children. This also means that if they don't have class, they can't be there allowed. It's close to the public, and the only way you can watch what's going on inside is by walking away from the building, going up some faraway stairs to get to the seats area, where parents normally wait and watch the swimming class. The closest you can get to the pool in this area is by reaching into a sort of balcony with metal barriers, and they still are about 8 mentees higher than the actual ground level. Where the pool is, I heard screams. It's hard to notice them at first, because there's so much noise around between the water, the chit-chats, and the trainers screaming, but the screams get louder. And as I'm awkwardly passing by the deepest pool there is, I notice the same mother from before, kneeling in front of the water, holding her cell phone with one hand, and just kind of flopping her other hand into the water. I follow her gaze, and immediately drop my backpack and dive into the pool, where her kid is almost 10 feet down into the water. This boy didn't drown because of me. People were screaming because they noticed this from the seats area. Someone had rushed to my boss's office and they had called the pool paramedic. Other people were still trying to get someone's attention so they could help. And my 3 bosses, one of my coworkers, another trainer, and the paramedic showed up at the exact moment I'm getting this boy out of the pool and starting CPR to get the water out of his lungs. The mother just awkwardly stands there, lurks to the back of everything in silence, and stands there. The kid is okay. They are wrapping him in towels and telling him everything's okay. People is still wondering what happened and asking around. I take a moment to process everything, and I notice the mom in the back staring at her phone. I snap. Cue the drama. The dialogue wasn't exactly like this since this happened about 3 years ago, but I still remember some of it. Me, totally drenched in water, totally angry teenager. Entitled mother me. What the fuck? Why was your not able to swim son in the deepest pool we have? Unsupervised? He was not unsupervised. I was watching him. Me. He almost drowned. Yeah, well, that's not my fault. I paid the school to teach him how to swim, and I just wanted to record him swimming to show his daddy. He does it very well. Do you want to see? Me. Stares blankly. She then shows me her phone, with an actual recording of she telling her son to go into the water to show daddy how you look like a fish in the water. The boy repeating the exact words I told them every day about not going into the water without a floppy or a teacher nearby, the EM telling him it's okay because she's there, the boy saying he's scared, and then the mother literally pushing this kid. Record him struggling for a while, awing as how he was able to hardly float around for some minutes, and when he gets tired of moving his little arm and legs around to keep his head out of the water and trying to get to the edge, his mother pushes him away of the edge, and he immediately sinks. And the video still lasts about 20 more seconds where the mother is just filming the kid sinking, and she just saying stuff like, "Look at me, daddy, I just like a little shark." I noticed he wasn't coming up, so I tried to grab his hand, but he was way down. Thank God you appeared at the right time. Me. Dead silence. I should probably start swimming classes too since I do not know how to swim. Do you know a good school? Me. Death stare. At this point, I'm done with this woman. Do you even care about your son? This is the second time he's almost died under your supervision when you showed up an hour late after class was over, and didn't even apologize to me nor explained why you're late. I would really appreciate if his dad came for him after class, because I swear I will never let this child go home with you. Pause to breath. I realized something. Why do you even push him in the water? He's 4. You know he doesn't swim nor float, or at least you'd known if you had a minimum interest in his life. What the fuck? What the fuck? What do you mean? You are way too young to talk to me that way, you little brat. My son is my problem and not yours. I don't owe you anything. You don't have the right or the power to prevent me from doing whatever I want with my son. And I couldn't jump in because I'd get my clothes wet, and I have to drive home. Also, I had my cell phone in my hands. Me, visibly soaked in water from head to toes, in the clothes I'm supposed to walk home, mutters a fuck you and walks away. I don't know what happened next to the EM. I approached the kid again to say goodbye and to check if he was all right, grabbed my backpack. My boss jumped in to take care of the situation, and I started my 15-minute-long walk back to my house. Although by the time I got home, I'm sure most of the water had evaporated from the way I was fuming. My boss filled me in the next day and said the mother was actually at the seat area by the time class was over, and she got distracted with her phone. The whole hour it took her to notice class was over and that she had to pick up the kid. That she complained that I had screamed at her, and after finding out I was the actual swimming teacher, she demanded I got fired. I was not. I actually got a raise. She threatened to sue the school because they had babies taking care of babies, and when confronted with the rule book about her breaking the rules, and that she would be in trouble, not sure how law applies to that in my country, for being in the pool area out of hours and nearly drowning her own son, she immediately erased the video, said we had no proof, screamed some more at my boss, and walked away dragging her son with her. The kid never showed up to class again. Years later, and I'm still salty about this whole situation, coworkers told me that there was more to the story, but the bosses refused to say anything about what happened next with the mother. I did get a warning for how I talk to parents, but it was kinda like, just don't scream what the fuck at them. And I wasn't in any real problem since I didn't have my uniform on. So in the eyes of witnesses, I was just a kid swearing at an entitled woman.